Hi there everyone, this is Sean, and welcome to Questioning Money, a newsletter taking a closer look at how money works and how it affects the world around us, often in ways we don't realize. Today I'm going to talk about the very first ways that money developed and how it happened. A lot of us have heard about barter before, which is the idea that in order to trade, you had to exchange one good directly for another. If I'm selling eggs and you have beads, we need to agree on how many beads equals how many eggs. I've said in earlier issues that there's actually no record of any single society that entirely functioned on a barter economy, and that is true, but it's more complex than that. The reason you can't have a fully functioning barter economy is because eventually there's just too many prices to track, and because not everyone will want what you have to offer. While maybe amongst a small group of 5 to 10 people in a tribe that only had a few goods could navigate a system of direct trade like this, it's just not possible at scale. If you start having a dozen, 50, 100 different goods, there's just no way in a barter system to be able to price one thing against everything else. Besides scale, if the person selling eggs didn't want your beads, then you would have to go find something that the egg farmer did want. In larger groups, it's just not possible to really track who wants what. These reasons are why there's no long-lasting system of barter. But barter still had a role to play in the development of money. In the first tribes, groups of people, or societies, money was not something that was decreed the way we think of today. There was no ruler or leader of a group that declared something to be money. Instead, what happened is that one of the goods that were used amongst a community would begin to take on the role of money. With barter, there are just too many situations where two transacting parties don't desire the other's good, and would need to seek out a third good to satisfy the needs of the unsatisfied individual. The reason that barter could never last is because inevitably the local economy would develop so that people would spend more time trying to acquire goods specifically to trade them again later, instead of just seeking out goods that are desirable to themselves. In other words, people would spend a lot of time acquiring goods that are desirable to the most people, specifically with the intent to trade them away again in the future. The benefits to this type of indirect exchange, acquiring goods you may not need in order to trade them away again, are so apparent that the practice of this would begin almost immediately in a system of barter. As soon as a new barter society developed, people would recognize the advantage that they could get by seeking out goods that everyone else wants. As all members of a community gradually realized the importance of acquiring certain goods predominantly for the purpose of trading them away again in the future, these goods would see their desirability rise even further as demand for them increased. Eventually, the vast majority of trades would be conducted using only one of a few commonly accepted goods. These goods, such as certain plants or cattle, were in essence the first forms of money. In early societies, whatever good that was most commonly desired by everyone in the group often ended up becoming money. While there may not have been thriving economies solely operating through barter systems the way many have imagined, discussing barter allows us to conceptualize the need for money, as well as understanding the progression of how the first monies arose. Even when a society begins without an established form of money, a money will inevitably arise. There was no formal choosing of a good to be money. Instead, the goods that worked best as money were eventually adopted. There was no formal decision about what goods should be money. Instead, the goods that best fulfilled the properties of money and were the best forms of money found themselves being used. And that is all for today's issue of Questioning Money. Thank you all for listening. If you like the newsletter, please subscribe. You can also find me on Twitter @SeanCover. I'll be back next week. Thanks for listening and take care.